Back, and many thanks for staying with us right here on the #1 breakfast show in the country, Morning at NTV. We do anticipate a presidential address courtesy of the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Will there be an extension of the lockdown measures that are going a long way in curtailing the spread and the contraction of this COVID-19 disease? People within the nightlife economy, those who operate bars, concerts and so forth, have been under lock and key for over 18 months. So they've been grappling and are waiting to see whether or not the President will actually let them go out there to make a living, or shall he be punishing us for not having observed the standard operating procedures after the second wave that took center stage within this country. Experts anticipate a third wave. We now do have a 4.9% test positivity rate. That is the rate at which Ugandans get infected by COVID-19. Well, if it goes above 5%, that is a recipe for disaster, because we might be seeing more measures being introduced. We shall also talk about the National Social Security Fund bill that is actually being sent back to the 11th Parliament. Oulanyah did say that they have to retable it and debate it afresh. But then it's being mastered back into Parliament by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Yet government and President Museveni said or recommended that the oversight role should be with the Ministry of Finance. So if it is Kasaija's docket, largely mandated with the oversight roles of the National Social Security Fund, why is it that the Gender Ministry is the one doing all the heavy lifting? Yes, the muscle work that we are seeing on the ground. Shouldn't it be Kasaija's docket in that regard? We shall also talk about the freezing of assets or accounts in that regard. Before, yes, there's been a case in court for over 7 years now. Bank of Uganda had the mandate to actually freeze your money without even conferring with you or even your bank in that regard. But then a law that was instituted about a week ago actually allows for you to actually sue Bank of Uganda, and for Bank of Uganda to first sue you and go to court and explain why they want to freeze your money. Simon Peter Musangala shall be expediting more on that conversation right here on Morning at NTV. Joseph Kabuleta is also here. We shall also talk about issues of torture that have been taken center stage. We shall talk about a lot. It's a multifaceted conversation. Simon Peter Musangala is also dogged by controversies to a gold scam that took center stage earlier this year. He was arrested with 3 other suspects over a gold scam that took center stage. An American was actually allegedly scammed or robbed of more than 20 billion Uganda shillings. So what actually took center stage? Simon Peter Musangala is here and he shall be acquainting us with that information. Joseph Kabuleta, very good morning. Good morning. Simon Peter Musangala, good morning. Thank you for joining us. All right, as far as the presidential address is concerned, Joseph Kabuleta, do you anticipate that the president might ask for an extension of these lockdown measures or otherwise? What do you expect?
I don't know. I would say what I think he should be addressing, and there are quite a number of issues.
Please go ahead.
The first one, of course, has a lot to do with our COVID response.
Yes.
It's clear that it has been overhanded in comparison to other countries. Now, for instance, if you look at Kenya's COVID numbers, the number of positive cases are close to 500,000. That's about twice ours. And the number of deaths are going up to 5,000. That is about 4,900 and something, 61 or 61 as of today. So, but yet in Kenya, there is no 7 p.m. curfew, there is a 10 p.m. curfew. So that makes a very big difference.
Schools are open.
Schools are open. The economy is open.
Same thing in Tanzania, Rwanda.
Okay, Tanzania, you know, people do not want to talk about it because they took a completely different approach to COVID. But now Kenya is the one which took it's an approach similar to ours. But then their mitigations are not that high-handed to the point that they are closing down businesses and, you know, causing a complete disruption of so many things that should be going on. So, for instance, a lot of everything is happening in Kenya. You know, 10 p.m. curfew means that people work full day. Yeah. And they go home. So nothing is stopped as a result of a curfew. Now, in comparison here, you know, banks are closing at 3 p.m. because of the 10 p.m. curfew, and so many other, you know, institutions that should have gone full day, perhaps up to 5:30 or 6, are closing earlier because of the curfew, and that shrinks the economy further. I don't even know what curfew has to do with COVID. I actually have never understood that. And maybe I'm never going to understand it. So those are one of the things I want us to address. Why is it that countries...
The government says the reason why they instituted this curfew, especially it's for security purposes. They say they are unscrupulous individuals that were actually rearing their very ugly heads when we actually retreat to our houses. But then if that curfew was largely to curb insecurity. We saw the opposite in Masaka.
No, it is. It has to be, because now it is very insecure moving around Kampala like this, because there's a lot of desperate people who would otherwise perhaps be working somewhere, but who have been pushed to the corner and have resorted to theft. I'm not so sure many of them are habitual thieves. Many of them might have been pushed there, but then also, so we have to look at, so even if they insist there has to be some curfew, because somehow it's been worldwide, even if it has never made sense, apart from Tanzania and so many other countries and other places, but why is it that countries that have had more deaths than us, actually almost twice as many deaths and twice as many positive cases, have actually eased up their economies and let people go and work? Why is our economy still locked down in very many cases? And,
well, according to government officials here, they'll run to their defense and say that it's because these countries have expedited some kind of vaccinations. If you look at Kenya, Tanzania, more than 3 million vaccinations have taken root. Uganda only 1.7.
Which is not too far behind, by the way, not too far behind. And actually, if you look at the targeted vaccination, people targeted to be vaccinated in the next short while,
22 million.
Yeah, you look and say that we're actually almost at par, so to speak. So there has to be a reason. There has to be an opening up of the economy. That's the honest truth.
Go ahead.
And there really has to be an opening up of the economy, and as well as other things in regard to our COVID response. So those are one of the things I want the president to talk about. Perhaps some other thing I would like the president to talk about is why there is so much insecurity and a lot of fear and a lot of death, especially in resource-rich places.
I see. Like Karamoja.
I'll tell you this. Karamoja is one of them, but I'll tell you this. I discovered recently that a lot of the Masaka region murders were in Ruengo district, and we're along the place where the oil pipeline is going to pass. And then I knew that they are supposed to be, paying people up for their land along the oil pipeline. And then the East African crude oil.
I see where you're going.
No. It's the truth. The ECOP thing said that Uganda has issues sorting land, land issues. So they said they are starting the pipeline in Tanzania because it was done much quicker there. People were compensated fast. And now in all the compensation, you have to understand that the banks that even fund the whole thing expect that there are no human rights violations, that people are compensated accordingly, and there's no cheating and all that. So then suddenly you have a woman who is in a place where there's going to be a pipeline, an old woman who is looking. No,
where you're going.
Yes, but I'm just saying what there is.
All right.
I'm just saying what there is. So you find an old woman is killed very viciously, and you wonder why.
They don't take anything.
They don't take anything. Then you realize that she actually had land in a place where an oil pipeline was going to pass, and she was due for heavy compensation. And perhaps somebody thought it is easier to kill her than to give her all those millions of shillings. And then you realize that Ruengo district, where the oil pipeline is passing, is where most of the Masaka region murders have taken place. So why is that? And then also you go, now you heard of, I saw it on NTV, of in Tororo, in the Bukedi region, of the 18 bodies which were buried somewhere. Then I'm seeing police report, and they say it has something to do with the, the rail, where the rail line is passing. Somebody has land where the rail line is passing, and they're expecting compensation, so they buy,
So you're saying unscrupulous individuals are killing people who are in the areas where the oil pipeline is going to reach. Now, in Bukedi, the Ghana railway line where it's going to be. Meaning state actors are killing people.
Well, I'm not going to say for sure state actors, but the truth is the state is the one supposed to compensate these people. And some of these people have been very, obstinate in regard to what they are supposed to get. They have been unyielding. They are trying to knock them here, because the honest truth is there is no way this government wants all those millions into the hands of villagers. That I know for sure. But then suddenly the people along that corridor start dying. And it is very, very suspicious for me.
So it's not the ADF like the president tells us.
No,
it's not members of the National Unity Platform Party. I
can tell you that for sure it is not. And then I also tell you that every time that such a thing happens, I listen to what the president says, and the direction is seeming to point people, and I know that is not the direction to look. So when I heard him saying that those people have been defeated politically, as if they are political actors trying to push some political point, I knew definitely that's one thing to rule out, because I know that he does in scenarios like that. So I started doing my research. Then I looked at where the oil pipeline is going to pass. And then I looked at where people are dying. And then I came up with my conclusion. I may or may not be right. But the truth is there's a lot of smoke. And you can't deny that, you know. Why would somebody come and kill an 80-year-old woman or something there about late 70s and then do something? I'm thinking, first of all, Richo Madas, but then also I don't think that's Richo Madas. Then I'm looking around and saying, what resource? Because I can tell you this, Romeo, let me tell you this. I can tell you this. Everything now is about resource. All wars, every uprising in the world, not just in Uganda, is about one thing only. And that is a resource.
You've opened a can of worms. It's like you're saying government would have been in a better position to kill these individuals. I mean, not compensate them with billions of money, but rather give them some 10 million Ugandan shillings to every family that lost a victim.
I don't say government. I said...
Who is going to be benefiting from this?
Well, whoever is responsible for the oil pipeline.
It is the government, Kabuleta.
Okay, since you have said government, then let's go with that. But the truth is that those people are dying across a place where the pipeline is passing.
But is this even highly conceivable? We have a lawyer in our midst, that is Simon Peter Musangala. Simon Peter Musangala, is this analogy or narrative coming in from Kabuleta even conceivable, that state actors, unscrupulous as they may be, could be killing people so that they could be not compensated in that regard? Over an oil pipeline, it's a different narrative from what is coming in from government, that political actors like the NUPS are people. Mohamed Sekiri and Alan Sewan, were doing it. President Museveni at some point said it is the ADF and so forth, but then this is a different narrative coming in from Kabuleta. What is it conceivable?
Thank you very much. Of course, my senior brother here, yes, Kabuleta, is entitled to his own opinion.
Indeed.
To begin with, some of the cases he has hinted on are before court, and the state, or rather the prosecution, has made its own investigations and found that certain people might be culpable or have a hand in whatever is going on in some areas that are experiencing insecurity, like Masaka. Yeah. Now, the analogy, his analogy of, let me say, people are being killed maybe because the government does not want to compensate them.
But let me just say this. It doesn't have to be government. Okay. It can be somebody who wants to stake a claim, an individual who wants to stake a claim on that land.
Anticipating that government at some point will compensate these people,
because
so if they kill them, take over their land.
Yes, because compensations are supposed to start this year. At least they were supposed to start this year. So it might be Romeo killing somebody whose land he wants so that he gets compensated.
But you've killed you've killed my relative. The story is all over the news. Everyone knows whom this land belongs to. How are you later going to come and claim?
Actually,
this is your land.
My issue is,
yes,
I'm sure every person has got relatives.
Yes, I would.
You may kill Musangala, but you not kill his wife. You are not kill his children.
Yes, they are survivors.
So still, the survivors will definitely have to get compensated. So I think I'll take that analogy with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Suppose some people are trying to discredit the government in these areas, that the government is not in charge.
The government does not need any discrediting.
No.
That has been the narrative also coming.
It could be some people saying, look here, if you think you are in charge, I have been watching the media and somebody has been saying, okay,
right,
look here, we have a curfew in the country, people are being killed during curfew time
when
at
it's
night.
Supposed to be secure.
We are not supposed to be moving. So the other question is, who's supposed to take charge?
So do you think the narrative coming in from government is right, Simon Peter Musangala, when they say that these actors are trying to paint them in a bad picture, make them look bad in the midst of the people so that they could rise up and take on this government?
That could be a view from government, and you have heard the view of Kabuleta. The ultimate is, this matter is before court.
I see.
And I think as a lawyer, I would be uncomfortable to discuss it, as it may hint to a subject.
Let's talk about the sidelines of this case. Go ahead.
Yes. So I think...
The analogies don't have nothing to do with
it. Yes. Let's talk about the analogy. So Kabuleta's analogy, it is a bit difficult really to comprehend and believe. However, he might be right in his opinion.
I would want to know why you think it's difficult to believe, because there's too much coincidence in the fact that...
I want to take you to... Insecurity is not only in Masaka. We have had cases in Mbarara where you have had an OC, OC station, who was actually shot dead. He was called, invited to go to the scene, and he followed offers and he was shot. You have given an example of Tororo. First of all, right now, we even don't know when those people were killed. There is no report that has come out to indicate when these people were killed. what circumstances led to that, because it is like a mass grave. These fellows were all found, you know. So until a report comes out to tell us when were these people killed, because a postmortem is able to disclose all that.
Yes,
suppose these fellows were killed a year ago. This is not the first time we are having mass killings. You have had Kibwetere, you know.
2000.
So suppose we have people with beliefs like him who are doing certain things behind the back of the state actors. So I think we need a thorough investigation.
Simon Peter Musangala, you could be right when you say that there are forces that are trying to discredit the government as far as security is concerned. Museveni has premised this administration on the fact that it ushered in peace within the country. So do you actually unequivocally believe that there is someone or unscrupulous forces behind the shadows operating to just ensure that they show, no. The narrative from government that the country is secure is wrong. We are totally insecure. You remember 2017, 2018, after the election, the murders took center stage. It seemed like there was a concerted effort to show that there is no security in the country vis-a-vis the pointers or messaging coming in from government. This year, we've just come out of an election. Now the same murders are going on, taking center stage. A discrediting scheme.
One thing you need to know, the best achievement that this government premises itself on is peace and security. So I believe anybody can do anything to show that, look here, even the little one you are bragging about, you are not in charge. That's my honest opinion.
That doesn't people trying to discredit government and not the other compensation of the land. Yeah.
This government does not need any discrediting. They have done the most shameless things. They have killed people in broad daylight.
November protests.
November protests. They have done that before. They have burnt people in a wagon in Mukura. Who needs? I mean, they pride themselves in death. They came to power on the back of perhaps half a million people dead. So there really isn't any discrediting as far as security is concerned. And all these ADF rebel groups which conveniently show up every time there is a resource. Some of there was even one PRA, which apparently, I don't know, was a shadow, you know, it was a shadow rebel group.
Yes.
So and we've had that every time rebel groups crop up, every time. But the real reason has to be something behind. And I can tell you this: there are so many places where resources came up. You go and ask a bit of what happened when, you know, the Hoima thing and so on, where resources show up and suddenly people start dying, okay, mysteriously.
Shouldn't these murders have been rife in the Bunyoro sub-region?
They were there. They started a long time ago.
Murders.
Yes, not machete, they were Butaimbwa, you know, iron bars. They were there, and people were killed with iron bars. And it was a big, you know, big news, except it didn't go nationwide like the massacre one.
Yeah.
But people were being quietly killed, and quite a number of them actually over a period of time. So everywhere there is a resource, this is what happened. And by the way, even not just here in Uganda. I know this for a lot of African places where, you know, somebody has their piece of land, they are tilling it, then suddenly there is a resource.
Indeed.
And then, and even I know individual anecdotes, only I cannot go on, you know, but where something is discovered in his land and the person dies. Now the thing is, usually, why do you say that their relatives will come and make the claim? Yes. First of all, as he said himself earlier on, there is a whole process of letters of administration and so on. Secondly, those people, because they are not the ones who built that thing, usually are in position to take less than the original person. Now, sometimes if the original person is stubborn and says, this is what my land is worth, this is what my house is worth, if you are going to pass you're going to pass the pipeline here, this is what. Now, remember, the banks that fund insist that there should not be any human rights violations.
Indeed.
Now, if there is any noise that comes out of the compensation process, you know, it's going to cause a problem with the funding of the project. So there should be no noise. People should be, the way it was in Tanzania, people should be comfortably compensated and relocated, and they are happy.
Let me take you back to massacre. They did arrest some 70 people. 10 of those suspects were actually arraigned in court and remanded. But then they did pinpoint themselves, the suspects. They pinpointed two politicians. They said, Noops, yes, Muhammad Segirinya and Noops Alan Sawanyan actually sent us, gave us money to actually orchestrate these murders. Doesn't that dilute your analogy when you say this could be about land?
That is quite as believable as telling me the sun is going to rise from the west tomorrow. I totally do not believe that. There is absolutely... Let me tell you something. Like these boys, these noob people, that's not the politics they play. The politics they play, you know, they follow the news. The politics they play is, you know, politics of stealing the show. So if the news is in Masaka, then they are there, you know, investigating and doing what for the cameras and so on. So their thing is following cameras. They are not, they do not understand the politics of that. If it was political, if indeed it was political, there is only one force here that understands the politics of death, and that is that's the ruling government. They are the ones who understand the politics of instilling fear. They did that during the Bush War. They've done that a lot of times here and try to instill fear, and sometimes at the cost of life. So those noob people are just showmen. They go where the news is, they go where the cameras are, telling me that they were involved in some kind of murder. I am not about to believe that. And there's no way I'm going to believe that. Not because I think they are saints, no. But because I know who the kind of people they are, the kind of people we are talking about. And I know that they would be the sort of people who would run to massacre when the cameras are there. And then they are, you know, somehow being seen to be, you know what I'm saying. So, so the truth is, that is not an analogy at all. But then I also know that you check, wait, now, if you distribute, go and check where the pipeline is passing and tell me if the deaths are going to end just in Rwengo. Tell me where the pipeline is passing and you tell me if the deaths are going to end there. The answer is no, they will not. There will be so many other deaths and they will be along that pipeline. And the issue is compensation. And that's the fact. And it's going to be there. Now, I'm even telling you forward so that you go and investigate and see if they will end just there. Because they will not. And I know, because it has been happening, even for every resource. Now in Bukendi region, there's a lot of minerals which have been discovered there, uranium what? Now you're going to start hearing. Now these people who are buried, it's just the beginning. You wait, you'll see. Now if it does not happen, then maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But it is going to happen. These people are so predictable. They are very predictable, and they honestly believe that all the resource of the country belongs to them. So they will do anything to get their hands on it. Now the idea that some old woman is supposed to get 300 million because she happens to have a Rusuku of Matoke where the pipeline is supposed to pass, and you think they are going to get that money and give it to somebody, it's easier to kill her in their way of thinking. So I'll leave it there. I'm just speculating.
Indeed. Simon Peter Musangala, counter that narrative coming in from Cabo later so that we can crown that conversation and go to the National Social Security Fund bill.
I think it is, it's not...
because you have suspects who are pinpointed.
It's not usually good to underestimate the power of somebody who, or somebody leading, or somebody who has over 2 million people behind him. You know, you are talking about Nope. You are calling these people cameramen, but these are serious people. These are serious people on ground. The youths are following them. The people that are following them are the most disadvantaged. The youth are over, the largest population in our country are basically youths. And most of them are basically unemployed. Now, if we have an investigation taking place and somebody all of a sudden, I don't know whether that's wishful thinking or just wishing somebody bad, and then somebody comes up and says, okay, we have links here. You don't underestimate that intelligence. So I think let's give the prosecution a chance. It is good these people have been aligned in court, and the state has to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt against these people. So let's give them a chance.
So you don't think it's a political witch hunt?
You know, there's a difference between politics and criminality.
Yeah.
Yes.
It might be a diversion. I don't think it's a political witch hunt. It might be a diversion.
He could be right about the diversionary tactic because experts have come out and they're saying 2026 is just around the corner. It's not too far. When we enter the next year, we shall be talking about only 2 more years until we start preparations for the campaigns. So they are saying this could be a ploy, a ruse to actually waste time for the National Unity Platform Party and their members who are not going to focus on mobilization during this period, but rather going to court X and court B, fighting this litigation coming in from government and not focusing on the mobilization of forces on the ground to take on President Museveni.
I think, if my opinion is, if that was the case, then the main targets would have been the people that the government can look at as a threat. But really, with all honesty, what is the threat of Segirinya? in this country. Why is the threat of Alan Sewanyana? So I think let the process take its course. And I am pretty sure that if they have no case to answer,
all right,
I have confidence in our courts of law that they will be exonerated. And at the end of the day, they have a right to sue government. Just like all of us have a right to do.
All right, let's flip the conversation and go to cases of torture. There have been so many accusations of torture that have been levied to our government. You remember the November protests? So many people were arrested. Some of them are still wallowing in Chitali and so many of the prisons within this country. Torture has existed within this country for a long time, especially during the campaigns. We saw so many people being tortured. President Museveni recently came out and said he was against it. A week later, we were seeing the VC of Victoria University actually being manhandled in that regard. Security operatives have continued to manhandle Ugandans. So does that mean that the president is not in control, Simon Peter Musangala? The fact that you're going to pass a directive and you say, do not torture people, and then these forces continue, does that mean he doesn't have control of his forces?
You know, it's a very interesting. You know, God is good, but
hallelujah.
God is good, but you don't need to play with the lion. Yes, you are saying God is good, but you are playing with the lion.
Is that a lesson you learned when you went to Chitali?
Of course, my OBs are there looking at us. And
in Chitali?
Yeah, there's a lot to learn there.
Right.
A lot to learn there. But I think torture is being hyped. Government has taken steps. Under the law, we have the Prevention and Prohibition of Torture Act of 2012. This act stipulates modalities of how torture victims are supposed to be handled, what amounts to torture, and so forth. The president is in charge of the country, and perhaps
does he have control of the forces?
On the realization that some state actors were doing personal things. You have had the police, the Inspector General of Police coming up with a directive instructing his men that please, should you torture a suspect, personal liability. The president has come out and told his forces that please, you don't need to beat suspects. But this does not mean that we don't have errant officers who have personal issues. Some of these fellows, some of the officers settle their own issues. Now
using their power.
Using their power to settle their own issues. You have had instances where people have been evicted. You know, torture is not only physical torture, it is also psychological torture and many other things. If you come and point a gun at me, that is torture.
So you mean these individual actors are just biased when they meet a young man putting on a red shirt and then they say, you look like a noob supporter, you look like a criminal, come to us. When they find you with dreadlocks, they are biased, thinking you are a noob supporter, then arrest you. When they find you with a tattoo, they independently have a bias?
Romeo, I really don't go...
That you could be allied with the noob?
I don't want to go into those nitty-gritties because there is no evidence on record that somebody has been arrested because of the dreadlocks. Somebody has been arrested because of a tattoo. I believe there is no smoke without fire.
Indeed.
Personally, I have been arrested. Okay? I've been arrested on being on a suspicion to do something. That's a matter in court. Let them settle it there.
The gods come.
Yes, let them settle it if they think there is an issue against me, which is okay. Now,
let's first finish this analogy, then you get us into the gods come. What really happened?
Thank you. Now, I believe whoever is arrested, that's what I'm saying. God is good, but don't play around with the elephant. I mean with the lion. They are saying it is a curfew time. It's 10 o'clock. You are moving. If they arrest you, because maybe at the time of arrest you're putting on a red t-shirt, they get you, you resist the arrest, and so forth, you are manhandled. You know, torture must be condemned by all state actors, by all citizenry.
What justification is there for the torture that was meted out on noob supporters following their arrest in November?
I did discuss that issue sometime. You saw what happened. I happened to have an office on Buganda Road. You are having a scenario where you are having fellows armed with the stones. If you can play your cameras very well, there is a woman who was hit a police officer who was hit on the head and she fell down. Now, if police realizes that the force that the citizenry is using is really the force that needs now force which is ordinary to arrest a citizen, then they have to employ it. That's why even when we are dealing, even as ourselves, if a police officer comes to me and says, please, you are under arrest, we want to take you. Do you know that there are people in this country that have been victims, alleged victims of torture every time it happens? Members of parliament. There are some members of parliament, wherever there is a scuffle, they have actually been victims. I'm not going to mention their names. My brother, I want to tell you that,
yes, Simon.
I want to tell you that when bad luck chooses you as its companion, when bad luck chooses you as his companion,
because bad luck did follow you when you actually transacted that gold's case with Anastasio Belezio, the American, some 20 billion Ugandan shillings.
Yes.
It's in court, but help us understand what really happened.
These are professional hazards. They are professional hazards. As lawyers, we manage funds on behalf of our clients. I know this is a matter in court, but as lawyers, we manage funds on behalf of our clients. We work on instructions. If you, in brief, Mr. Romeo, I have your funds on our client's account, and you tell me to give it to Carburetor, and I give to Carburetor, you do business with Carburetor, it turns out that your business didn't go well, why is the problem of the person who has helped you to whatever your money?
I see.
So, in brief, that's what I can say about that.
It looks like when he went to Chitalia, he was sanitized. Totally.
They call it re-education.
Re-education. It wasn't Chankwanzi. It was Chitalia Education
No, not really.
No,
by the way,
there are places where they go and realign your thinking.
No, by the way, no.
They are realignment centers.
I wish to disagree.
Simon, let us give Carburetor a chance.
Let me tell Mr. Carburetor about Kitalia.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I was there with the Nopu Pharaohs that time. I was there with Eddie Mutwe. I was there with all these guys. We were really meeting once in a while and discussing normally. So if people come and claim torture that side, you know, people play the gallery. Carburetor put it. There are people who play to the gallery because they want sympathy and so forth. I'm not going to come here and seek for sympathy because, you know, I was arrested, so I need to play around how I was tortured there. No. A good dog deserves a good bone. Kitalia is one of the best places anybody can go.
Okay, now let me say this.
Go ahead.
Yes, what happens is that you can be with somebody and, you know, in the same prison, but you're not with them all the time. And I have been in scenarios where they take me away. They have taken me away from a place where I was, and I was with people, and it was okay. It was an okay place. But somehow, sometime of the day, they come and take you away and freeze you, and nobody knows.
Let's not personalize the conversation.
No.
Focus on the issues
my point is that these people come out and they give stories of what happened to them. Now, saying that I was there with them and you were not with them every minute of every day does not discredit. That's why I'm giving you this thing.
Yes.
They have come out, not once, not one of them, quite a number of them, and they are giving stories which seem to be very corroborated. And they are saying some of the things which are, and not just them. They have some. So when the president comes out and says there should not be any torture and what, he's in charge, but he's just speaking to the international community. Now, what you have to understand about the president is every speech of his has a targeted audience. Now, the speech about no torture and all that thing about warning security forces not torture people was meant for the international audience because there was a very damning human rights report that had come out here, and then there was a lot of, you know, issues about that whole period. So he came out to kind of exonerate himself from it and make it look like the other people who are doing it. But reality is that it's their method of doing things.
I see.
And the truth is, all these people who have come out and mentioned how they are tortured psychologically, and some things which we cannot even say here. A lot of those stories are right. I know there are some who might come and exaggerate some of them, and I know though there have been instances of people who have exaggerated, but many of those stories are right. And you cannot say just because somebody was in the cell opposite, I know everything that happened to him. No, you don't, because at some stages people are taken away and brought back and so on. So the reality is that the issue of torture is, it's stepped up when the regime feels that there is any threat, any political threat.
Yes.
But there is nothing they will stop at doing when they feel there is political threat.
Yes.
Killing, torture, and so on, that's just part of the game plan. But when things are okay, then they kind of be nice and so on, and so we know them. We've lived with them for
Ugandans have also been tortured by the effects of this COVID-19 pandemic. Poor social protection tools have taken center stage during this pandemic. Many were wondering when will National Social Security Fund give them their money to actually serve them from the onset of this pandemic. But then guess what? MPs debated in the 10th Parliament. Oulanyah has come in, the Speaker of Parliament, and he says, well, that's gone business. Please retable the bills and we shall debate them afresh. Well, the opposition MPs, the private members, were saying they were also tortured because they put in a lot of money to fund these bills. So the president says in one of his reasons as to why he did not assent, 45 years of age. There's so many people. It's a big category in this country. And he says if we give out money, 20% to all these individuals, NSSF will be no more. Is that a valid justification for not giving people their money when they're dying of poverty?
No, it is not, because first of all, 20% is 20%. Now, NSSF should be in position to at least have 20% of what somebody's ultimate, taxes would be. Then first, then secondly, 45 years is just 10 years away from the time those people are going to be getting the money anyway. And all of the money, 100%. So now, why is 20%, 10 years earlier, such a big deal? Because NSSF has been government's ATM. So the truth is the money is not there. And the truth is, from the beginning, when they started pushing for 20%, I knew it was not going to happen. Because I know the money is not there. And I know that okay, there are investments which NSSF are going into, but still they should be able, because there are many savers in NSSF who are below 45, and that's a lot of money. So they are saying only those who are above 45 and only 20%. There should not be any reason to not give them that, because that's a very fair deal. They are not saying, I mean, what if they said 45% all the money? Then you would say, oh, well, I think that's a bit of a rush. Maybe they might not have that money. It might be invested in different places. But 45 years old, when there are so many working class people who are between 25 and 45, actually a majority of them between 25 and 45, who are outside of even this discussion. And then you're just cutting at an age which is not even too far off Uganda's life expectancy, by the way. Then 10 years away from when they are due for their money anyway. There shouldn't be any reason whatsoever for them not to get 20% of that money, except for the fact that the money is misused, and they count on, you come, you chase for it, and so on. And I didn't think the money was there when COVID came. I didn't think they were going to get the money. Remember, it was supposed to be about COVID. And now even easing away into, outside this COVID thing. So one of the things I expect the president to talk about, apart from this insecurity situation which I talked about, and apart from why our COVID restrictions are very high-handed in comparison to other countries who have worse scenarios than we have with the sickness, I want him to talk about why our schools are not open, why our worship centers are not open, because we are seeing funerals where people are gathered in their thousands. And I have no problem with that, by the way.
Recruitment of the LDUs, they
recruitment of the LDUs, starting from the swearing, his own swearing in, starting from election of Speaker of Parliament, going to everything thereafter, when it is convenient and when it does not have anything to do with, I don't know for what reason. Now then, why not worship centers? Because you see, I've said before that COVID has become a religion. People believe, believe. I mean, something, you see somebody regurgitating something which is an official statement, which does not make any sense whatsoever.
Simon Peter,
just hold on, let me finish.
Go ahead.
So now it seems like this COVID religion wants to be alone on the catwalk. It does not want other religions to come and compete. Let people go, and because now we're having a scenario where the president calls bishops, archbishops, sheikhs, and is the one preaching to them. And somehow he knows the Bible more than bishops and pastors and what. So, I mean, like he's an archbishop.
The COVID-19 religion.
So maybe he should start his church. Maybe he should start his church and he calls it COVID-19. And those people who go there. Now, for us who want to go to other churches, should go there. But there is no justification, realistically, for continued closure of schools. Schools, we are losing a lot of, especially when the United Nations General Secretary released a statement and said the schools should be opened immediately.
UNICEF too.
UNICEF too, because and the UN General Secretary himself now, Guterres, came out and said that it is urgent for governments to open schools immediately.
I hear you. Let's also get the 2 cents from Simon Peter Msangala before time runs out. Simon Peter Msangala, the way government has been dilly-dallying this issue, especially the executive when it comes to their setting to the NSSF bill, does it really paint a picture of an executive that really cares about the people that they run or govern?
Legally speaking, things must be done rightly.
Indeed.
Politics, there should be a difference between politics and the law. What has happened in Parliament, Parliament has not refused to implement what is in the NSSF bill. What the Right Honourable Speaker did was to guide the House that any business or motion or bill that was not assented to or which did not become law dissolves with the expiration of Parliament's time.
Indeed.
Now, as a lawyer, I understand the legal implication of that. First of all, the NSSF bill is not the only bill that was affected. There are a number. We have the succession,
National Climate Change Bill,
National Climate Change Bill,
Sexual Offence
the
Bill,
National Insurance Insurance
since
Bill,
the 1980s.
And many others. The Succession Act, and many other bills. In my opinion, what he did is to save a country from future litigation, because anybody could come up and challenge those laws if they came into effect after the expiration of the other parliament. So what I advise government to do, let them take back the bills to parliament.
All right.
Let the bills go through the process, and once the procedure is done, they will be assented to.
What about the money that was wasted fronting those bills? The money putting in processing those bills is actually too much.
If you fail to get what you want, you must love to want what you get. You know, the laxity on the side of the executive should be checked. The laxity on the side of parliament should be checked. Actors, the people who we pay money, must seem to do their work. Because you see, there are certain bills that were not assented to. Either they were not forwarded to the president or they were forwarded and he never signed.
Whose fault is that?
No. There's also a lacuna in the law of what amounts to the time within which the president is supposed to sign the bill. So we are suffering from over litigation. Sometimes not only litigation, we pass laws, and some of these laws fail even the parliamentarians to interpret. You saw my Obi Basal on the floor of parliament saying, look here. So when does the president, does it mean that the president has to receive the bill? It is received, then it starts counting days, the 30 days. When does it start? The constitution is silent about that. So some of these lacunas must be addressed. I believe the presidency as an entity, the executive, I mean the legislature, which is the parliament, and the judiciary should come up in helping us to interpret the laws.
But is the president's reasoning for sending it back valid when he says that people who are 45 years and above, if they are late to receive this money, and the fact that there are so many, they are the majority, it will lead to the destruction of the NSSF?
The president is the chief planner.
Is it valid?
Is the chief,
and as a social protection tool?
The president is the chief planner of the country. And that's why the Minister of Finance is delegated the powers. Under the law, the president is actually supposed to be the Minister of Finance. But he delegates those powers for the Minister of Finance to read. So if in his wisdom, he thinks this thing is going to affect the economy, which economy will affect the common person, or the majority of the Ugandans, not me and Mr. Cabrera here, because the way we look at things is quite different from the way the people down look at things. If removal of 20% of NSSF money is going to plunge the economy, then perhaps he has a right
the economy is already down, meaning some of these people who want access to this money are no longer working. And the reason why they want to access this money is to get into some other business ventures so that they could be able to pay taxes in that regard back to the government. Now that they are at home, they have no money, it seems the economy is just going to wallow and drag on. Below 3%.
That's an assumption.
Yeah,
because
is it an assumption?
No. It is. Look here. I will agree with you to the extent that lockdown or corona has affected everybody. But the people, the majority of the people who serve with NSSF retire at what age? At 60.
Yeah.
Okay? So you cannot tell me that they are not working. And the fellows who serve with NSSF, basically, the majority of them, some of them are government workers, some of them are with the government, parastatals.
Government workers don't serve with NSSF.
Finish, Simon. Finish.
Some of them are government parastatals, okay? And other entities, other companies. You get it? Now, what the government is doing, or what they are doing is, government has not rejected giving people money. But to what percentage is it given?
Let's also talk about the freezing of accounts, Mr. Simon Peter Msangala. That issue, it has also taken center stage in this country. Government, Bank of Uganda, before it could actually just freeze your account before even conferring with your bank, or even you as an individual, they would just, and the money would be just frozen. We want to talk about that case, but then when on the issue of NSSF, the money has been lying there idly or being invested somewhere else. But then government is skeptical when Romeo has some 130 billion Uganda shillings on my account. It is lying idly. They will want to investigate and find out why is that money not being used. So if they are having that audacity to find out why I'm not using my money, why shouldn't we be using our own powers to find out why NSSF money is not being divulged to the people of the country who need it the most?
There's nobody who's going to develop our country, the country for us. Our leaders must look for a way of developing our country. We must together look for a way of developing this country.
Now, without giving it grass.
Let me talk about the freezing of the accounts. A week ago, the Constitutional Court pronounced itself on Section 118 of the Financial Institutions Act. Under that law, it gives Bank of Uganda absolute powers to freeze anybody's account without even going to court and so forth. In other words, Bank of Uganda is more, as an entity, is more than any other person on earth. Okay? Because under Article 21, every person is equal and under the law. Now, the court is saying, look here, no, Bank of Uganda, you're also a human being. Before you freeze, you direct commercial banks to freeze anybody's account. Sue this person, take him to court, let him investigate the source of that money. Previously, you couldn't even sue Bank of Uganda because they have frozen your account. You couldn't even sue the commercial bank that has frozen. Now that the Constitutional Court declared it unconstitutional and directed the Attorney General to ensure that it is put in tandem with other laws, banks are now put on notice. This is, you know, banks can come up and close your accounts at will. They just write to you and they say, we have closed your account. They can't give you even a hearing. So it is good news.
Is it also good news for the NGOs that have also been following this fate?
It's good for every entity. It's good for every entity. However, it's good for every entity because for an NGO, that means they will be given an opportunity to be heard and defend their money. You are saying you have $2 million US on your account. We intend to freeze. Definitely, if you run and withdraw it, that's also another issue. But to me, it is good in as far as it gives you a fair hearing to defend yourself in court, explain where you have got this money and for what purpose it is. And for the NGOs, you have seen, I was on this TV and I told the people that, okay, there was these NGOs whose accounts were frozen. I told the nation that you see freezing of an account does not mean an end. This case has taken 7 years in court. And I am sure, pretty sure, they are going to pay costs for that. Now, of recent, the DPP entered a nolle prosequi in the case of Uganda versus Nicholas Opio.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. So there is nothing, it is just a matter of time that everything will be brought to light.
Joseph Kabulete, what do you make of this continued clampdown on civil society and NGOs, courtesy of government, the shrinking civic space? What do you think government is adamant to let these people expedite oversight roles into their work when it comes to governance and accountability? Well,
before I answer that, first of all, this the issue of the law. It's good that now, of course, there is the good and then there is the bad. The good is that now Bank of Uganda can be sued and they have to justify why they are freezing the account. But the bad is that 9 months, then the process starts of why is the money dormant on the account. And now you know that there are so many cases where getting letters of administration for somebody's estate takes even 2 or 3 years. So that means somebody died, he has money on the account, his people are still trying to get letters of administration to get authority to manage that account. In that time, the account has been depleted and the money has been taken to a consolidated fund or something like that. And there are so many other instances. There are cases of people who are, you know, abroad. People working abroad, Ugandans working abroad, who are saving money in the banks and waiting to come and for it to accumulate for them to come and do something meaningful here. And then you tell them 9 months? 9 months is even less than the, wait. Let me finish. 9 months is even less than the time they are away. So there are issues with all that. And the reality is the justification of where did you get the funds. I mean, if funds have spent there 9 months, you deposited the funds, nobody asked you where you got the funds from. Now after 9 months, they asked you justify where you got the money from. Why are you asking me now? the money has been on your account. It's not like I've just put it there. If there's any scenario of justifying where you get the money from, it should be at the point where you deposit the money. Now, when they get interest in your money, and then you see, the thing is, these laws which you put there, they lend credence to certain people within the system to actually go and abuse people's money. And the net result is going to be so many people keeping money in houses because they can no longer trust the banks. And already every other sector in the country has been struggling except banks. Now we might even get into the area where banks don't have any money whatsoever, because money which stays on the account actually helps the bank. It's not idle, so to speak. It helps the banks to go and lend people out, and actually the money is doing business, because banks have to have a certain amount of money available for them to lend out. So now that is part of the money. So it's not exactly idle as long as it's in the bank.
Yes.
But they will go and put it idle in their houses. So, and that is going to destroy the economy even more.
Why the scrutiny of the NGOs? Is it because of the work they do during the elections?
Because, yes,
2016, 2017?
Every election cycle, there is a new NGO law that comes up, or something, some amendment, and it comes up to the same thing of, you know, because NGOs are being used to bring money into the country. And then they are scared that this money can be used for political purposes. So that's why they clamp down on NGOs all the time. And of course, there are
not terrorism activities, but political activities.
I don't know about terrorism.
That's what they
mostly
say, government.
But of course, terrorism. But I mean, government, political can be terrorism if it's
going to remove the government in power.
Yeah, if it's anti-government. For instance, they say don't involve yourself in partisan politics. What they mean, don't involve yourself in opposition politics. If you're NRM, that's not called partisan. But it is partisan, you understand? We're in a multi-party scenario. So you can't say don't involve yourself in partisan politics when we're in a multi-party dispensation.
Thank you very much. Joseph
So that's the same as saying don't involve yourself in politics altogether.
Joseph Kabuleta, former presidential candidate, and also Simon Peter Musangala, a city lawyer. Thank you very much for having made the time to speak to us right here on Morning at NTV. This is a yes or no situation because I largely did not ask this question. Simon Peter Musangala, should schools have been open as soon as yesterday?
Yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes?
Yes or no?
Well, that's a lawyer for you.
Yes.
My name is Rombe Busiku, and you're watching Morning at NTV. Let's go to Rashul Adidi. He has an update for us. Rashul Adidi, good morning.
A very good morning to you.